Hey YouTube, this is Brandon, the Prepared Grunt, and I just kind of wanted to give you an eye of my garden that I've got going this year. Again, out here at my parents' property, so they've got a decent size property that I've been working on building up since I got here, basically helping them out and getting things built up for them. We have, I think it's almost a quarter-acre garden going. As you can see, I walked from the back corner where I was planting asparagus. I just put a asparagus root in the ground. So hopefully we'll have some asparagus this year. Actually, no, we won't have some asparagus this year, but hopefully we'll have some asparagus next year or the year after. That's the unfortunate thing about asparagus. When you plant it, you're planting it for 2 years in the future, because you plant it this year, you harvest next year, and then you can alternate every other year after that. That's why when you plant asparagus, you really want to do it in the same spot, every time, so that you have that alternating harvest. So like the area that I planted some asparagus, next year I'll plant some asparagus right next to it. Some more asparagus right next to it, and I'll be able to harvest off the one that I planted this year, and then next year I'll be able to and then the year after that I'll be able to harvest off of that one, and you just kind of keep cycling it like that, so that you always have harvests. So I'll give you a quick tour of my garden that I've got going on here. Again, like I said, it's a pretty good sized garden. This is the whole thing. As you can see, I've got a tiller over there that worked to cut the lines initially, and I've been having to hand till everything since, because I think something's up with the carburetor. So, and I haven't really had time to get in there and work on it. So that's why, if you're wondering why it looks like there's so much weeds and stuff in there, that's because there is. I've got weeds all over my garden. One of the things that I tend to do is I like having grass around the outsides, and I don't use chemicals, so of course I'm going to end up with weeds and nasty crap in there. But when I seed plant, I try and get all the grass, or as much of the grass and everything, out as I can. But I also don't like taking out everything, because I like things to decompose into my soil. A little while back I did a soil video, and now you can see why I do these soil mixes. This is red clay, beautiful Oklahoma red clay. Gets hard as a rock sometimes, and right now it's not, because I watered last night, so it's kind of malleable. But that's pretty much what we have everywhere here, so I have to kind of mix stuff in. Several years back I brought I think 2 semi-loads of compost that got mixed into this soil. This was about 6 to 8 years ago, when my parents first moved out here, and it's helped. It helps us get decent yields when we do have gardens. That year I had a garden, and I mean, we had an amazing yield. I don't know if my parents have had a garden in here since, but I'm bringing it back this year. So right there I've got a peanut plant, you can see that. I've also got a lot of my pepper plants that you can see. You see that one is, that little bitty guy is a Caribbean pepper. And then we've got Tabasco pepper, sriracha, ghost pepper. That's one of my favorites. I've got a ghost pepper plant in a pot up on the porch as well, that I've had for a couple years. Those are good. They're nice and spicy. Got another ghost pepper. Then we've got some tomatoes mixed in with these peppers. So we've got tomato, habanero pepper, tomato, habanero pepper, tomato. As you can tell, I love my peppers. But the reason we mix in the tomatoes with the peppers is because it's part of companion planting. So the tomatoes and the peppers both require the same kind of higher acidic soil, but they also require different nutrients from that soil. And they communicate between each other, which allows for more crop yield. When you tend to companion plant, you do tend to get more crop yield, especially when you're doing it in the ground. I also have at the ends here, these little piles are unmarked, but those are marigolds. I like to plant certain flowers and things to attract different bees, wasps, stuff like that, because they actually do chase off a lot of the bad bugs. So again, we've got another row of peppers and tomatoes all through here. You can see a lot of that moisture from watering last night still in the ground, which is good, because usually this stuff dries out really fast. That's one thing I have to fight with during the summer, is I have to get up really early and water once it starts getting hot. That year that I had the garden, I had to get up really early and water, and I had to water very last thing at night. Otherwise my plants started dying because they just weren't, the water wasn't staying in the ground enough. So that's our final partial row of peppers and tomatoes. I haven't gotten anything else in the ground over here yet. Still working on it. That's actually what I'm going to be working on more today. But I'll skip down here to where I have gotten stuff in the ground. We have lavender at the ends right here. These 4 basically are all lavender right at the end. It's 2 different species of lavender. Again, part of that companion planting. Putting those flowers there kind of helps bring in pollinators, and I like lavender. It's beautiful, it smells good, and it's very useful. So here, what I have here is, it's called a 3 sisters when you have all 3 of them. So the 3 sisters is corn, squash, and beans. And so I only have the 2 sisters. I have the corn and the beans, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But that's again part of that companion planting, where you put the corn and squash and beans in the ground together. They complement each other as far as the nutrients that they're taking or not taking. And the corn grows its nice sturdy stalk, and the squash and beans kind of grow up it, thus allowing easier gathering and everything like that. That's actually, it was originally a Native American technique where they found that if they planted those 3 together, they got a lot better corn. So over here, this is the beginning of my squash row. You see right there at the very end, I have dill. The reason I have dill there is dill attracts bugs that ward off squash bugs. It also wards off squash bugs by itself. It's more of that companion planting. Now I also have ornamental gourds and birdhouse gourds. Those are more for fun for my wife and kids. But then I go into my spaghetti squash all throughout here. I love spaghetti squash. Tastes just like spaghetti. If you take and cut the spaghetti squash in half, put 2 slabs of butter in it, like 2 little cuts of butter in it, and put it upside down in the oven, put some aluminum foil over it, and let it cook up. Then take a fork and scrape everything out. Make your spaghetti sauce on the side, whatever your favorite kind of spaghetti sauce is on the side, and you mix that up. You eat it just like spaghetti, and it is amazing. And I'll tell you, my kids did not know the difference the first time I gave it to them. They thought it was regular spaghetti, and then I told them it was spaghetti squash, and ever since they've been asking for spaghetti squash. So I've also got pickling cucumbers right there at the end of that. and then some more dill, again to help ward off squash bugs. Dill is a great herb. Now we're going into, this is right here, these two are corn, and that one is corn and beans. So all three of those are corn and beans. And then right here I did something a little bit different. It's kind of an experiment of mine, because I wanted some sunflowers. So what I did was I went ahead and planted sunflowers and beans together, kind of like the Three Sisters setup, to where I'm hoping that the beans will grow and climb the sunflowers and they won't take nutrients from each other. But I'm not 100% sure on how that works. So like I said, it's kind of an experiment. And I did it twice with two different species of sunflower and two different species of beans. So we'll see how those work out. And then back to the corn and beans. So in here, the reason I did this archway is so that all those cucumbers and all those squash and everything like that can grow, and it grows on the outside, drops its fruit on the inside, and I can collect it fairly easily. You see there, I do have to duck a little bit walking through it. Show you again. I have to duck just a little bit, so once the fruits and stuff start hanging down, I'm really gonna have to duck. But it was an easy way to set that up so that I'm not having to dig around in the ground to try and find cucumbers, because that never works. So all I did was I went and bought some hog fencing and just buried one end and then arched it over and buried the other end. Real simple. Not a whole lot of construction to it. Didn't have a whole lot of time to make that happen. And then this last row that I've gotten done, all right here, is another corn and beans with dill at the end. So another dill right there. Again, kind of gives that surrounding of the squash to help protect it. And then right over here, I told you I was working in this back corner. I've got a couple of horseradish plants, roots that I buried, and some asparagus. So hopefully I can have some horseradish and asparagus. That's something that I really like. And then finally, right here, I have a potato bin. So basically, it's cheap, easy way is I just took some chicken wire, dug a little bit of it, cut a little bit of a circle in the ground, buried the edge of the chicken wire into that, and then stitched or wired, however you want to call it, this fencing together. So it's literally just one wire that just kind of fishes back and forth all the way up. If it breaks, it's going to pop open. But that's kind of the point, because then whenever I'm ready to open this, I don't have to cut the chicken wire. I just cut this one wire right here and it'll all open up. And so what I did was I put 3 seed potatoes in there. Once I start seeing some green come up from those seed potatoes, I'm gonna throw more dirt in, just keep layering it up. I could throw dirt in, I could throw peat moss, I could even throw compost in there. Whatever I want, doesn't really matter, as long as it's not like, I'm not gonna throw a bag of concrete in there. But just something to cover that growth so that it causes it to grow all the way up, out to the top. And each one of those layers is going to give me another layer for rooting. And that's really what you want, is just another layer for rooting, because that's where you get all of your nutrients for your, or that's where you get all of your potatoes, is from the roots. And so I just kind of wanted to give you a brief overview of my garden and some of the stuff I've been doing. I apologize that it's been so long since I put a video out. I'm going to do my best to get better at getting them out more frequently. I'm going to start shooting for every Wednesday, having a new video out for you. And I'm going to start tying it into a lot of this digging work that I've done. I'll start tying it into showing you how to do exercises if you're getting muscle aches or pain from doing all this digging or whatever. exercises you can do to counter that, to kind of help you out. So again, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and as always, stay safe and uplift everyone.